Hi everyone, in this video we're calculating gross incomes. We're looking at the next couple of videos how we generate an income and how that income is taxed for government purposes. So the first thing we need to know is what our gross income is, and this is before we have any of those taxations or deductions taken from our pay. So we're going to be looking at how people generate their income mainly through wages, salary, piecework and commissions, so those four ways. If you have a look at your vocabulary, an income is generally generated from two ways, employment and investment, and we're looking at employment today. Investment will be later on in the year and we'll cover that when we get there. Okay, so gross income, the amount of money generated before we do some maths with it. Okay, so salary. Larry is a librarian, works for local council and expected to work a minimum of 38 hours per week. Monthly salary of $3,000. Okay, with salary, it does not matter what type of, how many hours you work. You're expected to work so many hours, but if you go short or you go over, you do not get rewarded for that. So teaching is one of those positions where we are on a salary. Okay, so Larry is a librarian, monthly salary here. So identifying some key information for us, even though this is a number, not necessarily useful for us. If the question was asking, well, this is saying calculating annual gross income. The question was like, how much is he getting? How much would Larry's hourly rate be? You would take this number and manipulate that so that you could get an hourly rate. But we're actually looking for gross annual income, and we're going to use the monthly salary of $3,000 to calculate that. So to calculate annual, we know how much is in 1 month, and we go 1, 2, 3, and so forth. But instead of doing that, we're going to go annual equals your monthly rate or salary times 12. Well, I'll do it as a kind of an FSA thing, times months. And that's going to be 3,000 times, but I don't have the month there. It's going to be for annual income, so that's 12. The annual income for Larry is 36,000. That assumes that Larry goes to work every week, and this is Larry's only income. So we'll have a look at that. So what I've done there is written a statement. So assuming, and I've kind of mentioned my assumptions here. So we've talked about assumptions before. They're the things that you need to assume or need to conjure up in order for the mathematical model to work. So assuming Larry doesn't generate another income from another job. So we don't know if Larry's an Uber driver during the week, and he works every week that he's in the year. Larry's annual gross income is going to be, or is 36,000. All right, so wages. Wages are the type of income that most of you will probably encounter, especially in the next couple of years if you get part-time or casual employment. You get paid an hourly rate based on how many hours you work or part there of those hours. You may get allowances on top of that. And the other thing is, because you generally, or if you're earning a wage, you're getting paid a set amount for your based hour, you may also get what we call penalty rates. And those penalty rates vary between employers, but your penalty rates are generally paid for weekend work, late like shift work, so early mornings, late evenings, and public holidays. So if you're working a public holiday, you're generally rewarded by a increase in your pay rate, and that's generally by a percentage or a proportion, like a fraction of it. So looking at Jack's question here, Jack works a casual job at Woolworths, 15 years old, year 10 student, works Saturdays and Thursday nights based on his hourly rate. So there you go, there's some hourly rate. Jack receives $4 per week in laundry and receives time and a half on Saturday. So the roster looks like this. So looking for our important information, we've got $14.05 per hour. Jack receives this much per week for laundry and receives time and a half on Saturdays. Yes. There you go. We know that he's working nights, doesn't assume anything else, and his roster looks like this. So we're going to calculate the hours in the roster. So this is 4 o'clock in the afternoon to 21:30. So that gives us that's essentially 4 to 5. So that equates to 5 6.5 hours, and this one here is 8.5 hours. Okay, so what we're going to do, I'm just going to put some assumptions in here. We're going to make some, we're assuming, no breaks. If we do, we don't know how long that break is actually meant to be, and that will impact our answer. No breaks, and the other thing that you will assume is that this is because remember we're looking for annual gross income, is that no holidays for Jack. So he works the whole 52 weeks. The roster doesn't vary. And you're not accounting for, like, say, variations. And we're not accounting for, like, public holidays as well. Okay, so let's calculate Jack's annual income. So before we start with annual, it would probably be best to work out the weekly income for this person. So we know that their hours that they've worked, we know what their base salary is, and we know that they've got an additional laundry salary. So their weekly amount is going to include their Thursday plus Saturday plus laundry, which means that you would work out the pay. So Thursday is going to be how many hours worked on Thursday times how much money they're getting paid. Now, it's not, and that one's all good, sorry. It's the Saturday one that you've got to be very mindful of. So hours worked times the base rate. And then you also need to account for the time and a half on Saturdays. Now, some of you might be tempted just to go like take that the whole amount and then press equal, then divide that by 2 and write that divide that by 2 and then add that to the original value. How you can get around that and make it a lot quicker is just multiplying it by 1.5, because this is 100% and this is 50%. So you're like going, well, here's the time and the half that we need for these many hours at this rate, plus laundry, which is going to be $4. So altogether, I would recommend that you learn how to use your brackets and, oh, there should be a plus there, and put things in this way. So then that way you're not losing information based on those decimals, but they should be all good. So the total is going to be $269.89. So that gives, remember the question though is asking us calculating gross annual income. So if this is weekly, we need to work out annual or yearly. So annual equals weekly times weeks in a year, and that gives us the 269.89 times 52 weeks, and the answer is going to be was 1,300. Oh, sorry, yep. Nope. $13,862.15. So that's our annual income. And that's when you would like write your statement. So the annual salary, or the annual wage gross. Let's start that again. The gross annual income for Jack is this much money, assuming that he doesn't take any breaks when he works the holidays, he doesn't work any holidays, and the roster doesn't vary between, and there's like no public holiday, so he's not like missing a day of work. All right, so piecework. Piecework is when you're getting paid for the completed item of something being done. So people who maybe work in textiles generally have this, where they get paid for each dress that they sew together, or people who work in farm, in like processing produce, so they might get paid per how many trays they pack or how many boxes they pack. So that's what piecework is, and that way you're incentivizing the people who are doing the labor to work quite quickly and efficiently, because then they're actually producing the products that need to go out and be sold and so forth. So here we have Fran is a retired seamstress. She cuts lace pieces for a wedding dress designer. She has an arrangement with the designer that it pays her $2 per piece of lace, and it takes 10 minutes to cut the lace out. She's cutting lace 2 hours each night. So again, we should be discussing our assumptions and what goes on here. The assumptions for Fran's situation are that you have assumptions that the work that she's doing is every night, and that the rates don't change. So that's what we are going to use. So the things that we need to be looking for is like how many pieces of lace. So that's $2 per lace. That's how much she's going to earn. She's working for 2 hours each night, and it takes her 10 minutes to cut a lace out. So we need to start looking at the number of like pieces per hour, and that's going to be, well, there's 60 minutes in an hour, and each piece takes 10 minutes. So that gives us 6 pieces in 1 hour. So now that we know that there are 6 pieces in 1 hour, we can multiply that by 2, you get 12, and then we're going by 7. So if we say pieces in a week, it's going to be your pieces times the 6 times the hours that we work, 2 times 7, because there's 7 days. So that's going to give us 6 times 2 times 7 is 84 pieces of work. And that comes from 2 hours per night, 7 days a week. Okay, so she's doing 84 pieces, and then the money earned, so earnings per week is going to be the number of times the rate, and that's going to be 84 times 2, and that gives us a value of $168. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing there. Dollars per week. So that's how much money she's making per week. But the question is the annual and income. So that's going to be annual equals weekly times 52, because we're assuming that the work, she does it every night and she doesn't take any holidays. So I'll put that as well. No holidays. And that weekly rate is 100 and that should be 168. I don't know what I've done there, so apologies. I think I said the right thing. Okay, that's 168. $168 times weeks, which gives us a total of, oh, I've lost it. $8,736 per year. Okay, so then you would have your final statement. Assuming that all these things are met, this is how much money Fran generates in a year. All right, commission, last one. Commission is when you get a percentage of a sale, and that's because of, it's generally for people who are in sales, so it incentivizes them to make the sales so that they get their bonuses. So Naomi is a real estate agent. Her commission is 3% of the settlement, the sale. So that means like how much it's sold for. And she's worked in the last 6 months using these values here. So what we're going to do with Naomi though is going to assume that this 6 months worth of work will reflect another 6 months of worth of work. So assume next 6 months identical, and that's pretty much all we need. So with her one, first thing we need to do is work out the total sales equals, and you're going to add those together to give you your total sales. So with your total sales, you add up those values and you get a value. You can work out 3.5 of each of those, but that's the easiest way. Now we need to work out 3.5% of the settlement sales. So when you hear that 3.5% of something, you know you need to multiply. So that's what we're going to do next. So with that though, you can also use your decimal. So remember 3.5% is the same as saying 0.035. And then that value is going to be $40,586. And then if that's your commission for 6 months, so your annual will equal 6 monthly times 2, and that's going to be $40,586 times 2, which gives us a total of $81,172 in total. So then you would say your thing, assuming that that should be 6 months are identical, and then they work the whole time. That is the total annual income for Naomi. So now it is your turn. There's 3 questions there for you. What you can do is pause and have a go of those ones. Great. Thanks. Stay awesome.